Sophia Carter rented a quaint room in sunny Mexico to heal a broken heart, only to stumble into a nightmare lurking behind every cheerful wall decoration. Confident and fearless, Sophia thought nothing could shake her, until she discovered her most intimate moments had been watched, recorded, and sold. But when she saw the familiar name of her ex-boyfriend among those who had paid to invade her privacy, her world shattered completely. How could she trust anyone ever again? And how much darkness could she endure before losing herself? What if the most horrifying betrayal was still hidden within the walls? Sophia Carter was accustomed to being spontaneous, her life documented in vibrant detail for millions of followers who lived vicariously through her fearless spirit and carefree adventures around the world. Her blog, aptly named Fearless Footsteps, boasted escapades from diving off cliffs in Santorini to trekking through remote jungles in Thailand. But this latest trip to Mexico wasn't just another bold move. This journey was personal, a bid to rediscover herself after a breakup that shattered her trust and challenged her fearless persona. The emotional bruises were fresh, still tender beneath the lively updates and radiant smiles she posted online. Beneath her adventurous exterior, Sophia felt vulnerable, a feeling she'd grown desperate to hide from her followers and herself. Sophia chose Mexico impulsively, scrolling late at night through Airbnb listings until one caught her eye. A picturesque guest room situated in a vibrant colonial-style home just outside Tulum. The host, a man named Javier, had an exceptionally high rating, his profile brimming with glowing reviews about his hospitality and attention to detail. Photos showed a welcoming room decorated with colorful local artwork, woven blankets, and small, tasteful sculptures, all contributing to an atmosphere that promised comfort and charm. Without hesitation, Sophia booked the room, excited to turn this impulsive choice into a cathartic escape, unaware that this decision would become one of the darkest chapters in her life. Upon arriving at the house, Sophia felt an immediate wave of warmth and friendliness emanating from Javier. His broad smile, infectious laughter, and eagerness to please seemed genuine. He gave her an extensive tour of the property, pointing out amenities, chatting enthusiastically about the local area, and sharing anecdotes about previous guests. But amid his excessive charm, Sophia noticed subtle things that unsettled her. A lingering glance, questions slightly too personal, compliments that edged past polite boundaries. She quickly brushed these off as innocent cultural differences, chastising herself for projecting her recent mistrust onto Javier. Settling into her room, Sophia admired the thoughtfully curated decor, but couldn't shake an underlying feeling of being watched. Rationalizing her unease as lingering trauma from her recent heartbreak, she determinedly ignored it. Still, as she unpacked her bags, arranged her belongings, and recorded clips for her next vlog, a faint unease persisted. She noticed details about the room she'd initially overlooked, the oddly positioned sculptures, decorations placed at angles slightly off-center, and artwork that seemed specifically oriented towards areas like the bed and shower entrance. Sophia told herself she was just paranoid and overthinking, a product of the emotional turmoil she'd come to Mexico to escape. Later that evening, while preparing to record an upbeat segment for her followers, Sophia's unease intensified. As she spoke cheerfully to her camera, pacing around the room for better lighting, she stumbled slightly and bumped into the wall behind her. Her elbow hit a large framed painting of Tulum's coastline, causing it to fall to the floor. Mortified, Sophia bent down quickly to pick it up, apologizing out loud even though she was alone. As she lifted the painting, something glinted strangely from within the hollowed-out frame. Curiosity quickly replaced embarrassment as she peered closer. Her blood ran cold when she recognized the unmistakable shape and reflective glass of a camera lens, perfectly camouflaged inside the frame. Sophia's heart raced as panic surged through her veins, and her breath shortened with the terrifying realization that her suspicions weren't unfounded paranoia, but gut instincts warning her of danger. She stared at the camera in disbelief, her mind rapidly spinning with horrifying thoughts about how long she'd been watched, who else might be seeing her, and what had been recorded. Every friendly smile Javier had given her suddenly seemed sinister. Each overly curious question now carried a sickening hidden purpose. She forced herself to remain composed, wary of alerting anyone who might currently be watching her. Carefully replacing the painting exactly as it was, she tried desperately to slow her breathing and appear calm, even though her entire body trembled. Sophia discreetly examined the room further, finding that her earlier unease about the decorations was justified. Sculptures contained tiny lenses, a clock face concealed another camera, and even the innocuous-looking smoke detector had a suspicious glint behind its cover. Her initial excitement about the charming room vanished completely, replaced by an overwhelming dread and helpless rage at the invasion of her privacy. Her first impulse was to pack her bags immediately, flee, and call the authorities. But a deeper fear stopped her. What if Javier wasn't working alone? What if her escape alerted a much larger, potentially dangerous network? She understood that simply leaving wouldn't be enough. She needed proof, evidence to expose the sinister truth hidden behind the idyllic facade. Sophia resolved to stay, despite her growing fear, determined to turn the tables. Quietly and methodically, she began making a plan, unaware yet of how deep this darkness would run, or how profoundly it would change her life. Even as fear gnawed at her courage, Sophia's resolve hardened. She wouldn't let these hidden predators win, not this time. But as the reality of her situation settled in, she couldn't help but wonder. Had she already become a pawn in a much larger, far more sinister game? Sophia Carter wasn't always the confident, adventurous woman her online followers knew and admired. Born and raised in a sleepy suburb of Austin, Texas, her childhood was filled with strict routines and carefully laid plans. Far removed from the spontaneous and thrilling existence she now broadcasted to the world. As the only child of two highly disciplined professionals, her parents had meticulously scripted her life, envisioning her excelling academically, attending prestigious universities, and settling into a predictable career path. Her mother, a renowned pediatrician, and her father, a respected architect, both had high expectations, insisting on structure and consistency in every aspect of Sophia's upbringing. From piano lessons to language classes, soccer practices to debate teams, Sophia's schedule was mapped out years in advance, with little room for spontaneity or personal discovery. Despite excelling in this rigorously structured environment, Sophia always felt a void, an unfulfilled longing for independence, risk, and authenticity. Her innate desire for freedom and exploration manifested subtly in small acts of rebellion, such as sneaking novels beneath textbooks during study sessions or daydreaming of exotic destinations rather than focusing on calculus problems. Yet, she remained outwardly compliant, acutely aware of her parents' sacrifices and unwilling to disappoint them openly. This internal conflict brewed quietly through her adolescent years, leaving her restless and yearning for an escape she wasn't even fully aware she needed. Her turning point came unexpectedly during her freshman year of college. Sophia had been dutifully following her parents' plan, enrolled in pre-med classes at an Ivy League university. When tragedy struck, her father, always the vibrant force behind her disciplined life, suddenly passed away from a heart attack. His death shattered her carefully constructed world, forcing her to confront the fragility of life's supposed certainties. For the first time, Sophia realized she had been living someone else's dreams and aspirations, denying her own identity in the process. Overwhelmed by grief and confusion, she dropped out of college, a decision that deeply disappointed her mother and forever changed their relationship. Determined to find meaning and purpose beyond her parents' expectations, Sophia embarked on a soul-searching journey, traveling alone for the first time to Europe with nothing but a backpack, her camera, and a vague hope for self-discovery. This bold leap into uncertainty ignited a passion she had never experienced before, a love for exploration, cultural immersion, and storytelling. Documenting her travels through a modest personal blog, Sophia quickly discovered a natural talent for connecting with people and capturing moments of genuine humanity. Her initial posts, heartfelt and raw, resonated deeply with readers who admired her openness about fear, grief, and transformation. Encouraged by the support and newfound self-awareness, she gradually gained confidence in her voice and her vision, turning what began as a coping mechanism into a thriving digital platform. Sophia named her blog Fearless Footsteps, a direct reflection of the courage she had cultivated through confronting her own insecurities and choosing her path against the grain of expectation. Over the next few years, her following grew exponentially, fueled by her genuine authenticity, adventurous spirit, and captivating storytelling. Sponsors and collaborations poured in, transforming her humble personal project into a lucrative career. Her audience admired her bravery and vibrant zest for life, unaware of the deeper vulnerabilities still lingering beneath her fearless facade. It was through her blog that Sophia met Alex, a charismatic fellow travel influencer whose charm and enthusiasm instantly captivated her heart. Their relationship blossomed quickly, nurtured by shared adventures and the intoxicating thrill of constant travel. They documented their romance openly, their followers enchanted by their seemingly perfect love story unfolding against a backdrop of exotic locales. Yet beneath the picturesque Instagram posts and joyful videos lay hidden fractures Sophia chose to ignore. Alex's relentless pursuit of popularity, his obsession with followers and engagement, gradually revealed a shallowness that chipped away at their intimacy. Sophia suppressed her growing unease, unwilling to admit to herself or her followers that the relationship she championed online had become a source of quiet suffering. Their breakup, sudden and public, became one of Sophia's most painful and humiliating experiences. Alex abruptly ended their relationship through a carefully worded Instagram story, citing vague differences and urging fans to respect their privacy, even though privacy was something neither had preserved. Sophia felt betrayed, abandoned, and exposed. Her heartbreak played out in real time to millions who offered sympathy, judgment, or criticism in equal measure. She retreated from the public eye briefly, overwhelmed by the sudden realization that her vulnerability had been weaponized, her trust exploited. Determined to reclaim control, Sophia made the impulsive decision to travel alone again, seeking to recapture the fearless independence she had once celebrated. She chose Mexico specifically for its vibrant culture, stunning landscapes, and promise of renewal, unaware that her attempt at healing would thrust her into a far darker and more dangerous ordeal. Her decision to rent the charming Airbnb was an act of defiance against her lingering vulnerability, a deliberate push against fear and self-doubt. As Sophia stood frozen in the rented room, staring at the hidden cameras she had uncovered, she was forced to confront not just this terrifying invasion of privacy, but the culmination of a lifetime of hidden insecurities, betrayals, and unresolved pain. The girl who had once dutifully followed every rule, afraid to disappoint, had evolved into a woman who boldly embraced risks and celebrated authenticity. But at what cost? In this harrowing moment, with her privacy shattered and safety threatened, Sophia realized the pursuit of fearlessness had led her unknowingly into peril. Yet, despite the dread pooling in her chest, a stubborn determination remained. She had faced loss, heartbreak, and humiliation before, emerging stronger and wiser each time. Sophia recognized this confrontation was not merely with hidden predators lurking behind camera lenses, but with her own unresolved traumas and unspoken fears. Her entire identity had been built on being fearless and independent. Now, stripped bare in this moment of profound vulnerability, she questioned everything. Could she summon the courage once more, knowing the risks now were graver than she'd ever imagined? As Sophia steadied herself, breathing deeply, her resolve hardened. No matter how terrifying or dangerous this chapter became, she vowed silently she would not allow herself to be a victim again. But as she prepared herself for whatever awaited, Sophia couldn't escape a haunting, nagging question. Had her fearless journey finally crossed a line from courage into recklessness? Sophia's pulse quickened violently as she stood motionless, eyes locked on the hidden camera nestled within the painting's frame. Panic surged through her veins like ice water, numbing her limbs and sending shivers down her spine. She struggled to steady her breathing, painfully aware that any hint of her discovery might alert whoever watched from behind the lens. The cheerful, cozy charm of the room vanished instantly, replaced by an oppressive sense of violation, as if invisible eyes now crawled over every inch of her skin. Fighting against the rising nausea, Sophia gingerly placed the painting back in its original position, acutely aware she must preserve the illusion of ignorance to maintain her fragile safety. Every moment spent in the room now felt suffocating, the walls seemingly closing in as paranoia tightened its grip on her consciousness. With forced casualness, Sophia wandered around, pretending to inspect other decorative elements, all while discreetly checking for further signs of surveillance. She made disturbing discoveries in rapid succession. Tiny pinhole cameras embedded in decorative figurines, an unusually positioned smoke detector, and even subtle lenses hidden within the elaborate detailing of the room's antique wall clock. Each discovery twisted her stomach further, confirming her worst suspicions. Her private moments, intimate conversations, and even mundane routines had all been documented by someone hidden in the shadows. The betrayal cut deeply, reopening wounds of past heartbreaks and trust shattered by those she'd held dear. Maintaining the facade of carefree obliviousness was excruciating. Yet Sophia understood the necessity of this performance. Her mind raced furiously, considering possible responses. Should she immediately flee, risking direct confrontation, or remain, attempting to gather more evidence to expose the operation safely? The uncertainty gnawed at her nerves, amplifying her anxiety with each passing second. Every casual glance at a sculpture or decorative item now became a nerve-wracking test of composure, each harmless action weighed heavily by the knowledge of unseen scrutiny. Sophia realized this terrifying revelation had stripped away any lingering illusions of safety or control, leaving her vulnerable and afraid, yet determined not to become a passive victim once again. The oppressive quietness of the house intensified her dread, amplifying each tiny creak and muffled sound from outside the room as sinister echoes. Suddenly, footsteps approached her door, forcing her heart into a frantic rhythm. Sophia fought to maintain a neutral expression as Javier gently knocked and inquired with disturbing warmth if everything was to her liking. Her throat tightened, but she managed a convincingly cheerful reply, grateful for years of practice hiding emotions behind a polished online persona. As Javier lingered, exchanging pleasantries, Sophia forced herself to laugh lightly, to seem carefree, despite every instinct screaming warnings of danger. His gaze lingered just slightly too long, his smile just a touch too wide, and Sophia wondered bitterly how she had initially missed these red flags so entirely. Once Javier departed, Sophia felt a wave of relief wash over her briefly, though quickly replaced by renewed dread. She knew her options were limited. Escape prematurely without evidence risked losing the chance to expose this sinister operation, potentially allowing it to continue unchecked. Yet, the idea of staying any longer in this compromised place filled her with paralyzing fear. Her mind began formulating a desperate plan, driven by an unwavering determination born from years of facing fear head-on. With trembling hands, she discreetly retrieved her laptop, carefully positioning herself to block view from any hidden lens. Under the guise of casually scrolling through social media, she typed a cryptic message to her closest friend, Mia, hinting vaguely at trouble without revealing specific details, just enough to raise alarm without alerting anyone monitoring her actions. Sophia knew Mia, fiercely loyal and intuitive, would sense the urgency beneath her casual wording, triggering assistance without direct exposure. But waiting for Mia's response became another exercise in emotional endurance, minutes dragging on with excruciating slowness. Sophia pretended normalcy, forcing herself through routine activities, feeling unbearably exposed as if performing for an unseen, malicious audience. Every simple task, pouring water, arranging pillows, charging devices, now carried unbearable tension. Her body coiled in constant anticipation of unseen threats. Finally, her phone vibrated quietly, a brief message from Mia offering calm reassurance and promising discreet assistance. The subtle acknowledgement brought Sophia a fleeting moment of solace, though insufficient to fully dispel her mounting dread. With assistance on the way, her next move had to be meticulously calculated. Using casual exploration as a cover, Sophia ventured carefully into other common areas of the house, ostensibly photographing charming architectural details for her travel blog. Her real intention, however, was far grimmer, systematically identifying additional cameras, discreetly cataloging their locations under the innocent pretense of social media documentation. Each new discovery compounded her horror, revealing the shocking scale of surveillance that extended beyond guest rooms into common spaces and outdoor areas. This was no amateur endeavor. This was a meticulously planned and sophisticated invasion of privacy, clearly intended for sinister exploitation. She realized, with dawning terror, that she likely wasn't the first victim. How many unsuspecting guests had slept unaware under invasive eyes, their most private moments covertly filmed for unknown and undoubtedly nefarious purposes? Her anger rose swiftly, mixing with fear and fueling a desperate courage to confront and dismantle this terrifying injustice. As evening descended and shadows lengthened across the room, Sophia's anxiety intensified, knowing that nightfall would further exacerbate her vulnerability. Determined not to succumb to helplessness, she quietly fortified herself emotionally, reassuring her trembling nerves that bravery was necessary, even if fear clawed viciously at her composure. Yet, despite her resolve, Sophia couldn't deny the insidious whispers of doubt plaguing her thoughts. Was staying to expose this malicious scheme genuinely courageous, or a dangerous gamble driven by pride and stubbornness born from past humiliations? In the stillness of night, while pretending peaceful slumber, Sophia's thoughts spiraled endlessly, haunted by visions of unseen watchers delighting in her vulnerability, of private moments turned public spectacle, and trust irreparably broken. A single burning determination remained clear amid the confusion. She would not allow herself, nor anyone else, to remain defenseless prey. But, even as she resolved to act decisively, an unsettling thought lingered, gnawing incessantly at her bravery. Had she underestimated the true danger hidden beneath this seemingly charming facade, and would her desperate attempt at heroism only further entrap her in this escalating nightmare? Nightfall descended over the Airbnb like a sinister veil, amplifying Sophia's dread as darkness enveloped the property. Every creak and rustle outside her door set her heart racing, each sound magnified by her escalating paranoia. Sleep evaded her, an unattainable luxury overshadowed by visions of hidden lenses and sinister watchers. She lay motionless, feigning rest, her mind relentlessly cycling through terrifying scenarios about who else might have witnessed her private moments. The depth of the violation had already left scars on her psyche, eroding her sense of safety and the fragile illusion of independence she had carefully rebuilt. Her only source of solace was Mia's discreet message, a thin lifeline in an ocean of uncertainty. Still, waiting for assistance required Sophia to maintain her facade of ignorance, a performance growing increasingly unbearable by the hour. Each passing minute stretched into eternity, filled with oppressive anxiety and a gnawing sense of vulnerability. Her thoughts churned with questions. How many others had endured this invasive horror silently, their private lives sold and distributed without consent? Who was orchestrating this sinister operation, and how deeply did it extend beyond the walls of this seemingly charming house? Determined to collect irrefutable evidence, Sophia carefully considered her next steps. She knew merely leaving wasn't enough. She needed proof robust enough to expose this criminal enterprise definitively. Resolved yet frightened, she forced herself into calculated action. Under the pretext of filming a travel vlog, she subtly began documenting each hidden camera location, pretending to narrate local travel tips while meticulously cataloging every covert lens. She spoke cheerfully to her followers, projecting outward confidence despite the tremors beneath her voice and the dread pooling in her chest. Every cheerful word uttered felt like a betrayal of her own truth, intensifying the psychological strain. Suddenly, during her covert investigation, a chilling realization gripped Sophia. If the host was monitoring her closely, he could already suspect her knowledge. A fresh wave of terror surged through her as she reconsidered her casual movements around the property. Had Javier noticed her unusually intense interest in the decor? Had her nervous energy betrayed her true intentions? Every friendly conversation they'd shared earlier now felt sinister, every innocuous exchange of pleasantries tainted with suspicion. She felt increasingly trapped, a mouse within a maze carefully crafted by predators who observed her every move with ruthless efficiency. Compounding her torment, Sophia began discreetly exploring beyond her room, uncovering unsettling details suggesting Javier was no lone operator. The extensive network of surveillance cameras throughout the property hinted at professional-level sophistication. She discovered storage closets locked securely, doors subtly reinforced, areas clearly meant to conceal secrets far darker than mere voyeurism. Her anxiety intensified as the scale of this horror expanded before her eyes, suggesting an organized, widespread scheme involving multiple individuals or even an entire network. The implications terrified her deeply, fueling desperation to act swiftly and decisively. Yet the enormity of her discovery pushed Sophia into a painful moral crossroads. Should she immediately alert local authorities, risking retaliation from a potentially corrupt network that could infiltrate local law enforcement? Or should she continue gathering evidence quietly, placing herself in escalating danger with each passing second? The dilemma consumed her thoughts, a heavy burden made heavier by the realization that any choice could lead to catastrophic outcomes. The oppressive weight of responsibility pressed upon her shoulders, resurrecting memories of past failures and abandoned trust. To complicate matters further, Sophia uncovered files left carelessly open on Javier's computer when he briefly stepped away from the property. With trembling fingers, she quickly skimmed through encrypted folders, discovering explicit, deeply invasive footage of previous guests. Tourists, backpackers, young couples, all unsuspecting victims ruthlessly exploited by hidden cameras. The sight sickened her, and she forced down a wave of revulsion mixed with furious determination. Her eyes widened as she glimpsed transactional records detailing sums of money exchanged online, indicating these private moments were being sold on the dark web to anonymous buyers. Her horror peaked dramatically when she recognized the familiar screen name of Alex, her ex-boyfriend, listed prominently among recent subscribers. Nausea overwhelmed her instantly, betrayal flooding through her veins as vividly as when he'd publicly ended their relationship. The violation felt profoundly personal now, layered with cruelty beyond imagination. Realizing Alex had secretly participated in exploiting her vulnerability, Sophia felt shattered anew, confronted by the stark realization that the man she'd once loved had become a silent accomplice to this grotesque violation. Anguish and rage competed for dominance, each emotion tearing at her fragile composure. Tears threatened, but Sophia refused to yield, channeling raw emotions into a renewed resolve to dismantle this horrifying operation entirely. The moral conflict deepened as she contemplated revenge, exposing Alex publicly, humiliating him as he'd humiliated her, or confronting him directly to demand accountability for his disgusting betrayal. Yet, she knew indulging personal vengeance might jeopardize her broader objective of dismantling the entire network. The tension between justice and personal vendetta twisted her thoughts painfully, challenging her inner strength and moral compass. As dawn approached, Sophia painstakingly weighed each potential consequence of her choices. Reporting Javier immediately to authorities could trigger violence or retribution, putting her safety and possibly Mia's in grave danger. Yet waiting longer risked exposing more innocent victims to exploitation, compounding her internal torment. Time was running out, each minute amplifying the urgency for decisive action. The oppressive uncertainty gnawed relentlessly at her nerves, threatening to shatter her tenuous composure entirely. Sophia finally resolved on a daring, dangerous path. She would continue her undercover efforts for one more day, gathering enough evidence to ensure definitive exposure of the entire criminal operation, despite terrifying personal risks. Her heart pounded fiercely, adrenaline surging through her body, fueled by a potent mix of fear, anger, and steely determination. Still, doubt lingered ominously at the edges of her consciousness, taunting her bravery with grim reminders of past trauma and painful betrayals. As morning sunlight filtered through her curtains, Sophia knew this upcoming day would test every ounce of courage she possessed. She mentally prepared herself for an exhausting performance, maintaining false normalcy while secretly gathering damning evidence. Her internal battle raged fiercely, a profound moral crossroads demanding resolution as she balanced self-preservation against ethical responsibility. Each breath felt heavy, charged with the gravity of imminent danger and the burden of confronting unspeakable cruelty. Yet amid relentless fear, a quiet determination endured within Sophia, refusing to succumb to despair or victimhood. She would not let herself become a mere casualty of her past traumas or this sinister scheme. Whatever awaited her in the harrowing hours ahead, she vowed silently to confront it with courage, refusing to surrender to helplessness ever again. But even as she braced herself, one terrifying question haunted her relentlessly, casting shadows across her fragile resolve. Had she underestimated the true depths of darkness concealed beneath this idyllic facade? And was she truly prepared for the consequences of confronting evil directly? The early rays of dawn stretched through the curtains, casting soft, deceptive warmth across Sophia's room, a stark contrast to the chilling dread that gripped her. Exhausted but resolved, she knew today's actions would determine whether justice would prevail, or if she would become yet another forgotten victim. Each heartbeat echoed heavily within her chest, a constant reminder of the immense stakes involved. Determined not to falter, she methodically rehearsed her steps, her outward calm masking the storm of anxiety raging beneath the surface. The terrifying revelations of the previous night had left her shaken, especially the discovery of Alex's disturbing involvement, an emotional betrayal that struck deeper than all the others combined. Sophia quietly gathered her equipment, carefully positioning her phone and hidden recorder discreetly within her clothing, determined to capture further evidence without arousing suspicion. She moved deliberately through her morning routine, her movements casual but meticulously calculated, maintaining the facade of ignorance while mentally noting every potential vantage point for hidden cameras. Her outward poise remained unshaken, even as fear tightened its relentless grip, her courage reinforced only by sheer determination. Sophia knew she had one chance to get this right, one moment to expose the horrifying truth. Javier appeared downstairs, his bright greeting unsettlingly normal, sending chills cascading down her spine. She forced a pleasant reply, her voice steady despite the turmoil roiling within her. As they exchanged idle conversation, Sophia's pulse quickened, acutely aware that every word she spoke was now weighted with risk. Javier's demeanor was impeccable, warm and charming, yet beneath his friendliness lingered something undeniably sinister, detectable now only because Sophia knew the horrifying truth behind his smile. His casual offer of coffee felt disturbingly normal, and she fought off nausea, wondering if he suspected her knowledge. After breakfast, Sophia suggested casually exploring the grounds further, under the guise of filming additional segments for her vlog. Javier's enthusiastic approval unnerved her further, his friendly insistence that she enjoy the property now seeming manipulative rather than hospitable. Moving carefully around the expansive gardens, she documented every camera placement discreetly, her cheerful narration at odds with her racing heart and trembling fingers. Her tension mounted dramatically with each discovery, each hidden lens deepening her horror at the expansive and calculated nature of this scheme. Returning indoors, Sophia quietly entered an unlocked door leading to a smaller guest suite. Her eyes widened as she discovered a concealed panel slightly ajar in the wall, suggesting someone had recently accessed the hidden space. Inside, she found a sophisticated surveillance room, monitors displaying live feeds of each hidden camera positioned throughout the property. Her blood turned to ice as she observed not just her room, but multiple guest spaces, bathrooms, and common areas meticulously observed by these invasive lenses. Anger surged within her, tempered only by fear as she realized the scale of exploitation. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, of guests unknowingly broadcasted to anonymous predators worldwide. Rifling quickly through files stored beside the equipment, Sophia's hands trembled violently as she discovered extensive documentation, logs meticulously detailing each guest's name, personal data, and explicit footage. Her throat tightened painfully at the sight of her own name and the images linked to it. Fighting back tears, she scanned further, desperate to uncover the extent of this sinister network's operation. Among the detailed notes, she noticed repeated references to an online marketplace and encrypted addresses, clearly indicating footage sold through the dark web to subscribers around the globe. The grotesque sophistication and scale of the operation shocked her, confirming her worst fears of organized exploitation. Sophia's heart nearly stopped when she stumbled across detailed communications between Javier and his clientele. She felt violently ill as she recognized Alex's username among the regular buyers, his messages filled with explicit requests for footage specifically related to Sophia. The depth of his betrayal struck her like a physical blow, tearing open emotional wounds she had desperately tried to suppress. Yet even amid her revulsion, another revelation caught her eye. A recent exchange between Alex and Javier suggested a disturbing arrangement, hinting that Alex had financially incentivized Sophia's stay at this particular property. The horrifying realization struck her instantly. Her impulsive choice to rent this Airbnb had not been random at all, but rather a carefully orchestrated trap set by someone she once loved. The shock of this betrayal nearly overwhelmed Sophia's resolve, her mind spiraling into panic. The boundaries between past love and present horror blurred painfully, betrayal layered upon betrayal in a devastating cascade of deception. Yet even in her emotional turmoil, Sophia knew hesitation could be fatal. She hurriedly recorded as much evidence as possible, forcing herself through the nausea and heartbreak to ensure definitive proof against both Javier and Alex. Her urgency intensified, realizing each passing second brought potential discovery closer. But as Sophia prepared to leave the concealed room, footsteps echoed ominously nearby. Terror surged through her, adrenaline flooding her veins as she quickly concealed herself behind a heavy curtain, heart pounding so violently she feared discovery from the sound alone. The door opened slowly, Javier stepping into view with chilling calmness, his previously pleasant expression twisted into something sinister, eyes cold and calculating. He approached the surveillance monitors with practiced familiarity, clearly suspicious of recent activity. Holding her breath, Sophia watched Javier scan carefully through recent camera logs, methodically noting timestamps, and realized with horror he was reviewing footage from just moments before. Footage that could betray her presence. Her body trembled uncontrollably, knowing discovery now meant unimaginable danger. Javier's fingers paused ominously, his eyes narrowing as he spotted irregularities on the screen, his demeanor instantly shifting to tense suspicion. He muttered angrily to himself, clearly disturbed by what he saw, his carefully constructed facade beginning to fracture under growing paranoia. Sophia seized upon Javier's brief distraction to escape silently, slipping from the surveillance room undetected, heart still hammering with terror. She fled quietly to her room, every nerve stretched taut, knowing she had only moments before Javier pieced together her involvement. Once safe, she hastily prepared to flee entirely, urgently texting Mia instructions to alert local authorities immediately. Yet before she could leave, her phone lit up with an incoming call, Alex's name flashing ominously across the screen. Rage and confusion surged through her simultaneously, prompting her impulsive decision to answer, driven by desperate fury. Alex's voice was pleading yet disturbingly calm, filled with calculated remorse as he begged Sophia not to expose him publicly, promising lavish compensation in exchange for silence. His tone grew menacing as she vehemently refused, threats subtly woven beneath superficial charm. His attempts to manipulate her ignited a fierce rage within Sophia, the betrayal burning deeper than ever. Yet before she could reply, a sudden pounding at her door jolted her violently, Javier's voice harshly demanding entry, his polite mask completely stripped away. Frozen by fear yet resolute, Sophia realized her confrontation had arrived far sooner than anticipated, leaving no time to weigh options further. As Javier's pounding intensified, each violent knock rattling the door ominously, Sophia understood escape was impossible, the situation escalating swiftly into a life-threatening nightmare. Her courage trembled beneath overwhelming dread, but she refused to surrender without a fight. In the final, terrifying moments before Javier forced entry, a single chilling thought echoed relentlessly in Sophia's mind. Had Alex's betrayal not only shattered her trust but also sealed her fate? Sophia stood paralyzed, her heartbeat pounding violently as Javier's furious banging on the door echoed ominously throughout the room. Each thunderous strike reverberated through her bones, signaling imminent danger and escalating her fear into pure, primal terror. Her trembling fingers desperately dialed Mia's number, whispering urgently that she needed immediate help, her voice shaking so violently that her words barely made sense. Before she could say more, the door exploded inward, splintering with scattering across the floor as Javier stormed in. His face twisted into an expression of rage and suspicion that sent chills down Sophia's spine. His once friendly facade had evaporated completely, replaced by the terrifying persona of a predator unmasked, ready to confront the prey that had dared to challenge him. Javier moved swiftly toward Sophia, eyes blazing with fury and accusation, demanding answers as to why she had trespassed into his surveillance room. Sophia stood frozen, every muscle in her body seized by fear, yet beneath her terror simmered a fierce determination born from anger and betrayal. Gathering courage from deep within, she refused to cower further and confronted him boldly, accusing him directly of his monstrous actions, exposing the sinister secrets she had uncovered. Javier recoiled momentarily, visibly stunned by her fearless defiance, but quickly regained his composure, his expression darkening with dangerous intent. He sneered coldly, dismissing her accusations with chilling arrogance, confidently declaring that no one would believe her wild claims. Yet even as he spoke, distant sirens pierced the air, their shrill urgency signaling that Mia had acted swiftly, bringing law enforcement to Sophia's rescue. Javier's bravado instantly dissolved, replaced by panic as the sirens drew closer, their relentless approach filling Sophia with desperate hope. Realizing his time was running out, Javier lunged forward aggressively, attempting to grab Sophia and silence her permanently. In a surge of adrenaline-driven strength, Sophia evaded his grasp narrowly, using all her might to shove him away, sending him stumbling backward into a nearby dresser. He collided violently, momentarily disoriented, allowing Sophia precious seconds to escape toward the front door. Outside, police vehicles skidded to a halt, officers rapidly spilling out and approaching the property with weapons drawn, their authoritative shouts echoing through the tense atmosphere. Relief surged through Sophia, tears of gratitude and lingering fear streaming down her cheeks as officers stormed the residence, quickly apprehending Javier and securing the scene. Amidst the chaos, Sophia collapsed onto the front steps, her body trembling uncontrollably from exhaustion, emotional trauma, and the overwhelming relief of rescue. Mia arrived moments later, embracing Sophia fiercely, offering comfort as she reassured her friend that the nightmare was finally over. But in truth, Sophia knew the ordeal wasn't fully finished. Not yet. Hours later, at the local police station, she painstakingly recounted every harrowing detail of her experience, handing over extensive evidence she'd meticulously collected against Javier and his hidden network. Her revelations shocked even seasoned investigators, who expressed admiration for her bravery and quick thinking, acknowledging that without her courageous actions, countless more victims might have suffered silently. As she spoke, the weight of her experiences bore down heavily, reopening wounds of betrayal and vulnerability, testing her resilience to its breaking point. The investigation expanded rapidly, revealing a horrifyingly extensive international ring dedicated to voyeuristic exploitation, implicating multiple suspects and leading authorities to launch coordinated raids worldwide. Sophia's actions triggered a massive wave of arrests and closures, her courage reverberating far beyond Mexico, providing justice to innumerable victims previously silenced by fear and shame. Yet despite this victory, Sophia's personal scars remained deep and raw, particularly the emotional devastation caused by Alex's betrayal, whose involvement had shattered whatever fragile trust she still possessed. Alex's role in orchestrating her entrapment became public knowledge, igniting widespread condemnation across social media and permanently dismantling his carefully curated persona. He attempted feeble apologies, issuing public statements laced with shallow remorse, but Sophia saw through his hollow words, recognizing manipulation and self-preservation cloaked in contrition. Privately, she felt no satisfaction, only a lingering sadness for the naive trust she'd once given so freely. Though Alex faced legal repercussions and immense social backlash, Sophia knew the emotional wounds his betrayal had inflicted would remain with her indefinitely. In the weeks following her return home, Sophia struggled privately with anxiety, nightmares, and an unsettling paranoia that seeped into every corner of her life. Her once fearless spirit had been profoundly shaken, replaced by cautious hesitation, hypervigilance, and a persistent sense of vulnerability. Each glance toward unfamiliar objects sparked apprehension, the trauma manifesting in sudden flashes of panic triggered by ordinary surroundings. Her blog, once a source of inspiration and fearless adventure, fell silent temporarily, her followers left speculating anxiously about her absence and welfare. Yet slowly, cautiously, Sophia began rebuilding her life once again, her recovery fueled by a determination stronger even than before. With Mia's unwavering support, therapy, and a growing resolve to reclaim control, she transformed her pain into powerful advocacy. Sophia courageously broke her silence publicly, sharing every painful detail of her ordeal online, igniting global awareness about privacy exploitation and online voyeurism. Her vulnerability resonated deeply, empowering other victims to speak openly, creating a supportive community driven by empathy, strength, and collective healing. As months passed, Sophia's voice grew increasingly influential, her experiences inspiring legislative reforms and widespread discussions regarding online safety, consent, and victim advocacy. Her resilience inspired millions, her journey toward recovery becoming an emblematic example of overcoming adversity. Though privately she knew true healing remained a lifelong endeavor. Despite her outward strength, trust was now something Sophia approached cautiously, forever altered by the betrayals that had nearly destroyed her. Her life eventually regained elements of normalcy, marked by a careful, deliberate return to travel and exploration, albeit accompanied now by vigilant caution rather than carefree spontaneity. Through it all, unanswered questions lingered hauntingly beneath her newfound strength. Could she ever fully trust again, allowing herself genuine vulnerability without fear of betrayal? Could she reconcile the pain inflicted by those she'd once trusted implicitly? Or would those scars forever mar her ability to love and connect authentically? In the quiet solitude of her thoughts, Sophia grappled continuously with these unresolved doubts, recognizing the emotional complexity inherent in surviving trauma. She had emerged from the darkness unquestionably stronger, yet undeniably altered. As her advocacy and influence flourished, Sophia privately acknowledged that some wounds never fully healed. They merely faded into silent reminders of battles won at great personal cost. And though her courageous public persona inspired countless others toward healing and empowerment, Sophia quietly accepted a painful truth left profoundly unsaid. Bravery and resilience often conceal deeper vulnerabilities, scars invisible yet permanent, reminders of betrayals forgiven but never forgotten. As she stood bravely before the world, Sophia silently questioned whether the greatest betrayal was not merely Alex's deception, nor Javier's malicious intent, but perhaps the betrayal of her own once unquestioning trust, forever altered by the cruelest lessons of all.